Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is Your Story, Your Grief, Your Journey. And sadly, we're coming to an end here today on this show as the star of our show, Mr. Doug Lawrence, leaves us to go on to the next chapter where he is helping people all over the world as an international certified mentor and an international award-winning best-selling author. Our topic today is how do I prepare for my healing journey, which I think we could even extend to how do I prepare for any journey, because a journey starts in some place and then it continues on for some period of time. We're very quick in life to want to rush to get to do something, and we want things to change right away. We don't want to go through the pain. We don't want to go through the experience, but yet that's part of where the key learnings are. So let's welcome the star of our show, Mr. Doug Lawrence. Hello.
Hello, and hello to our viewing and listening audience all across the world. Thank you for being part of our show today, and especially for today, because today is a sad day, as it is my last day as co-host with Dr. Jacalyn of Your Story, Your Grief, Your Journey, and we're going to try and give you, and not try, we'll give you some takeaways from our conversation today, and hopefully that will spur you to go on to do bigger and better things as you begin or continue your journey.
Outstanding. Thank you, Doug. And again, it's been an honor to be here with you. We've had so many great conversations on this show and stories of hope, inspiration, and overcoming adversity. And the funny thing is that we just met through you coming on to do a show. And you just never know where things are going to go. So I always want people to be open when you think about connecting with someone. And I want everyone to go to your LinkedIn and connect with you, and also to purchase your books. And we've got your information right there. So Doug, I know we're going to talk about a healing journey. Something that I just wanted to bring up. I shared with you that I started the 75 Hard, which is this mental warrior process of literally torturing yourself and putting yourself in very uncomfortable situations to see mentally how you can handle it. And part of what you have to do is read, and you have to read 10 pages every day. And I was reading how people want to get to the end before the 75 days. And I thought to myself, I don't want to do that, because I'll still be the same. I'll still be who I am right now. So in order to get there, I have to make the sacrifices and do the journey. But when it comes to a healing journey, it's a different kind of thing, or is it?
Just listening to what you were describing, to go through the program that you're going through, you have to be able to feel the pain that is part of that journey. And it's not unlike any other journey. When you think of it, I'm going to take a journey and go on a summer holiday. Well, there's pain that I'm going to have to experience, because I'm going to have to go through the whole concept of figuring out what is it that I'm going to take, and what do I do if I don't pack what I probably need to pack, and all sorts. And it's a different sort of pain, I guess. But in most situations, it's kind of like, you have to do the time in order for everything to fall into place for you. But I don't think we can go on a journey without there being some sort of pain that we have to experience.
Very true. I think one of the significant differences in just the two things that we're talking about is that I've chosen to do this. But when you lose someone, that's not something that you choose, but you have to choose the ability to heal. And one thing that comes up for me, and I'd love to have you comment on this, is as humans, so often we want that easy button. We want to do whatever is the easiest possible thing. Let me just stay where I am. Let me put a blanket around. Let me crawl into bed. Let me put the covers over my head. But that's not going to help anything. Now, if you do it maybe for, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get yourself together, what has been your experience? You've worked with a number of people who have gone through a grieving journey. You yourself are going through a grieving journey. Is it okay? And again, I'm not going to use the word should, but when we decide to check out and just retreat, is there a time limit that we should say, okay, I'm going to give myself an hour to have a pity party and then I'm going to be productive? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that part of the whole, everybody deals with grief in it. It's how we deal with grief is a unique experience. So everybody goes through and deals with things differently. I've talked to fathers, to dads that have lost a child, and it's been 12, 15 years since the child passed away, and why they passed away is actually irrelevant. It's the experience now that the dad is every day. He said there isn't a time period that doesn't go by that I don't have a thought or a memory of something that we have done together that sort of comes back to me every so often. But this one particular father said that it's been 12, 15 years that he's been going through the grieving process, the mourning process, perhaps, and that his grief is actually unique to the passing of his son. So I think we need to take a look at this from the aspect of it is unique. We're all going to deal with things in our own way or our own fashion, so to speak, and we have to be willing to be flexible to understand that process is going to actually have to take place.
Thank you, Doug. So let's break it down a little bit. We unfortunately, tragically lose someone, or we lose something that means everything. Maybe it's a pet, maybe it's our career, maybe it's our health. And health might be one that's a little bit different. But what are the first steps we need to take in order to heal? Is that acknowledging the pain that we're in, acknowledging and coming out of denial?
Part of the process is obviously being able to be in a place where you can actually acknowledge that your loved one, your pet, whichever, has passed on, and that now you will be faced with, and it's not going to happen today and it may not happen tomorrow, but that you're going to be faced with the stark realization that I now have an emptiness that I may want to try to fill, but I may never be able to fill with the passing of that loved one. And I know, like for myself, I'm in going into year 3 now of Deborah's passing, and what I'm finding now is that where I was doing not bad and I was able to sort of not rationalize, but to sort of put things in perspective, I've now reached another phase or another stage where the emptiness, the loneliness, and that is more front and centered for me. And so I find that I'm kind of looking around and going, okay, oh my goodness, what's changed? Because things were okay for me, 6 months ago that seemed to be okay anyhow. And now I've come almost full circle where I'm I'm struggling at times. I'm struggling with the fact that there's that emptiness, and when I would like to have somebody that I can bounce something off of, right in at that particular moment, I don't have that, and I didn't have it 6 months ago, but it wasn't front of mind, so to speak. So and everybody's going to go through that in their own fashion, in their own way, because we keep saying that, going through the grieving process is a very unique process.
It definitely is. And I think also something that's different, again, if I go back to 75 hard, there'll be a celebration. I'll be celebrating. I'll be like, wow, this is really cool. But in a healing journey, there's still the loss of the person. And while you can celebrate the fact that you got through it, that emptiness, that hole, that void will always be there. So how do you compensate for that, knowing that the person's still gone?
Well, one of the things that I was quite surprised that this was, I'm still obviously continuing. I'm reading some different books, some very good books on that, tell the story of somebody passing on. But for me, what it's basically boiled down to is that we went through a process where we did a celebration. So we actually celebrated Deborah's life, and we gave by going through and doing that gave a lot of family, friends, colleagues, work colleagues, that gave everybody the opportunity to help celebrate, or for them to be able to celebrate in whatever fashion they wanted. But we did it as a celebration of life. And in some of the readings that I've been going through, that's one of the things that they talk about, is make sure that you celebrate the life of your loved one. Make sure that you go through and do that. And they don't give specifics as to what that should look like, but I think, everybody has kind of their own idea of what that should look like, or what it's going to be like. And I think, you need to follow through on that, because that's obviously an important element of, going through and beginning, or if not beginning, continuing on your healing journey.
Yes, I like what you shared there. And I'm also thinking, Doug, we certainly have heard of this where there are two people who've been together for a long time, or there are two people who are just crazy in love, and something happens to the one and the other just has a broken heart and just doesn't want to be there anymore. Do you think that I don't want to say broken heart syndrome, because I'm not an expert on this, but do you think that that's something that we manifest for ourselves? Or is it something that we can say, hey, listen, I really miss this person. I love this person, but I have some work that I still need to do here. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, do we have a choice?
Excuse me, I take a look at what we're coming up now on July 8th. It would have been 45 years of marriage. And there are now, there's things we had talked about accomplishing and doing, and there are things that were going to happen, but now won't, because, that part's missing, so you end up with what you need to take the time to celebrate that relationship, that partnership of, in our case, 45 years, and be able to, to be able to sort of put it in perspective that, just because Deborah's gone doesn't mean she's gone. If you can kind of follow my rationale, is that she's always there with me, and I'm able to, call on her from time to time to be able to help me deal with or guide me in whatever direction that I have. But not everybody has that. And you mentioned it earlier, was that, that relationship of pure, intense love that is unmatched by anything else. And, that makes that healing journey all that much more difficult when you have that sort of a bond or that relationship, because it makes it more and more difficult to be able to move forward. It will lengthen the amount of time that it's going to take for you to begin and start and get on the healing journey, on that journey that you need to take. And it's just going to prolong how sort of the speed at which you're able to move forward.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm also wondering, many times we lose more than one person. I just spoke to somebody who lost 4 people in a year. I mean, that to me is just, it seems incomprehensible that we'd be able to carry on and actually have some kind of quality of life knowing that 4 people so close to us are gone.
Well, and rightly or wrongly, one of the things that I would always do is, when I see situations where there's been multiple losses, is to sort of, one of my first questions is, why did that have to happen? To that particular, the person that's left, or the family that's left behind, is, trying to wrap my head around and rationalize, if that's even possible, as to, why the, mom and dad passed away, and then, my aunt and uncle, and so on and so on. And it's to try and when we turn around and say everything happens for a reason, sometimes that's okay to say, I guess, but it's very difficult for people to kind of wrap their heads around that, and sort of say, I don't know why everything had to happen for a reason. But when I think of my own personal self, my mom went first. I was a huge void, and then my dad went next, and then Deborah went. So I had 3, but they were spread out, so that I was able to, to deal with each one in its own special way, so to speak. So I don't know. It would be very difficult if that all the time frame would have all been scrunched tighter together. I think that would have been a true test of my spirituality. That would have been a true test of my ability to, from a mental health perspective, to be able to deal with, the multiple loss in a very short period of time. That's something that, you don't wish on anyone.
Because no one's walking around proudly saying, I'm a professional griever. This is what I do. It's, I was thinking to myself about the Ocean Gate situation, the loss of a husband and a son together. I mean, how do you deal with that? Not to mention the other people who lost their families, obviously, but you lose 2 family members the same time. And we can look healed on the outside. We can put on a smile. We can immerse ourselves in the things that we're used to doing, but yet inside there is a brokenness. And I'm just wondering, based on your experience personally and professionally, if there is someone, I just mentioned that someone lost 2 people, is that healing journey different? How do you know how much time to spend on each one? I mean, I don't know. So many questions.
Yeah, and I don't know that we would have the answers. And I think, to complicate the death of the father and the son, I think the mother was on the main ship, the mothership, I guess. So was in close proximity. So there you have a different type of grief, where you have somebody who the potential exists for there to be, for her having to start to begin her grieving process, because it appears as though that the end is going to mean that she's going to end up losing her husband and her son as a result of all the events that took place. And so it becomes challenging. And I'm willing to bet that there was nobody thought to even to bring on board the main ship, somebody that could provide, counseling and help them start to begin that process instead of, and I know I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, but that would be something I would want, is to have somebody I could turn to and say, well, if the end result is that I lose both my husband and my son, how am I going to deal with that, and start that conversation, that grieving process, and by doing so, we're helping that individual to start their healing journey a little bit earlier. And I think that's better than not at all.
Yes, I agree with you. That's a good point. I know myself, not knowing any of those people, I'm terrified to go underwater, by the way. You could never pay me but to think about what they went through before it happens. And it's still like, I can't even think about it. It's so painful. I can't even imagine if you're one of the family members or the friends. It's just, so my next question is, I know people, when they've lost someone, that they've turned to prescription drugs. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. Is there a place for that? Or is it kind of, prayer, God, universe, spirit, whatever it is? What are your thoughts based on your experience?
Well, to be truthfully honest, I'm not a huge fan of medication. So of prescription medication, certainly to combat the grief and how it impacts your mental health and all that sort of thing. I know that we sometimes are quick to grab the pad of paper and a pencil and write out a prescription, but I don't know that that's always the best first step. I would like to think we would attempt to explore the counseling and helping the individual work their way through. And then if a trained professional doctor takes a look and says, I think that we could maybe prescribe this particular drug that's going to have these effects and these side effects, and be able to do that. I know I've done some mentoring with a few individuals who will always ask the question, should I be taking these medications? And my response back to them is typically, you're under a doctor's care and they've prescribed them. Just be mindful of the side effects, and if that becomes an issue, you need to go back to the doctor and let them know. It's really not much different for those where you have situations, health reasons, that doctors prescribe medication, and you still have a responsibility to yourself to monitor the taking of those medications and monitoring the side effects and all those things, because no one else knows your body better than yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Definitely, because I know sometimes people are prone to just take medication anyway because there's the bottle, let me grab it. So this next question, it might be a little more in depth, so feel free to take some time, is you lose the person and you are at odds with them, or you have this, because I know people this has happened to, this tremendous amount of guilt because something was unresolved and now it can never be fixed. And maybe in this one case, and I'm thinking of, the person had several months to address whatever the issue was, and then their sibling was tragically killed, and the person was literally ruined after that. So when you're dealing with loss, but you're also consumed with guilt, that's like a double-edged sword, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, it can be. And I've gone down that path. I went down that rocky road with my father, who I was at odds with for a number of, in fact, no disrespect intended, but he didn't want me there when he was passing. So I respected that. But part of what you end up having to do is you need to, have I done everything I possibly can to, in my case, it was, have I done everything possibly that I can to mend those fences? And what the realization I came to was I had in every instance always said, I will meet you halfway and we can, have that dialogue to be able to sort out how we're going to go forward. And it never took place. So he ended up passing, and I, automatically you sort of think, geez, I wish I would have had this time left or this or that. And then I sort of said to myself, okay, but you did what you were comfortable with, which was you extended your hand to say, I'll meet you halfway and we can maybe, restart our relationship and start to, move things forward. And it never, like I said, it never took place. But, those are, and I guess let me back up. What I've also seen, I've seen this with other people that have had that kind of that broken relationship that you talk about. And the one thing that I've suggested that they do is that they need to do what I did, is you need to be able to ask yourself, have I done what I feel is in best interest for both of us? So is it, mending the relationship, or is it meeting them halfway, or, what path do I want to take in order to be able to turn around, look in the mirror and say, I did what I could, and I'm okay with that.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate that. I have a follow-up question because I've seen this happen as well. So two people are at odds, and then the one person passes, and then the first person decides they're not going to go to the service. They're not going to pay the respects. And then they hate themselves for, it's like, I should have gone. Is that appropriate to go? If, let's say there's a dispute in the family and the family all knows it, and you're the one who didn't, you didn't make up with the other person and the other person passes. Do you go out of respect, or is that being a hypocrite?
What I would probably do is I would have a conversation with the other, using the family as an example. I would have a conversation with the family members, or my other family members, and I would be looking at it from, here's how I feel, and here's what I'm thinking on doing, and are you okay with that? And have that conversation. Ideally, the sooner the better. For my liking, in any event, is the sooner that I'm able to have that conversation, the better off it is for everybody. Because when I think there, I think to Deborah's celebration of life, there was people that came there that I kind of questioned as to why they were there, but not my call. And she may have had a relationship or something with them, but from my perspective, I'm kind of going like, I'm not quite sure why you're here, but you're here. So it's I think what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to, in a lot of cases, and now that I hear myself say all those words, I kind of go, that's really not my call, because everybody that, people that came to a celebration of life are there for a particular reason. And they're probably there out of respect to the family. They're possibly there because they had a relationship of sorts with Deborah. So have to respect that as well. So a number of things is, I think we need to be very careful that we don't react before we have all the facts.
And I appreciate you giving that real life example. So in that case, if you don't mind, did you approach the person or persons, or did they come up to say something to you? And if so, what did you say?
They did come up, and I was of the sort, I took the high road and said, thank you very much for, coming to celebrate Deborah's life today. Just so you know that the family does appreciate, everybody that took the time out of their day to come and be with us today to celebrate her life, and left it at that.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, because also they're getting closure that they need. And then, Deborah can see that they came, that they're there. And so I don't know, I just think that you make the effort and there's some meaning and significance behind that to be recognized.
Well, and sometimes, yeah, it's my favorite old saying is that the hill I want to die on? And it wasn't my call in any event, because the celebration of life was put together, number one, for family to share their memories and that with whoever wanted to attend. But there was also, as you mentioned, there was also a number of people that were searching for and wanted to find closure, because she was a special person and meant a lot to each and every one that was there. And so who am I to disrespect that?
Thanks, Doug. And I know this is not an etiquette and manners show, but I'm just wondering, because I've seen some things that you don't always see when you attend funerals. A couple of things I've seen where the family specifically asked people not to speak. They only wanted one person to speak, give a eulogy, and then people started coming up anyway. And people were actually standing up in various parts of the church, just saying whatever it is they wanted to say. So I wanted to ask you about that. And then also, I've been to a funeral where it was a closed casket, and somebody came from the back, literally came up and threw themselves on the casket and started pounding on it, screaming, "How could you do this? How could you do this?" And the family kind of just sat. So are there etiquette and manners when it comes to services and funerals?
I would imagine there probably is. I'm not aware of anything definitive that's being laid out, but I know that that's why sometimes you see the closed or even an open casket is usually at the back of the church, and that's so that it doesn't disrupt anybody by outbursts and stuff like that. So there's certainly that part of it. And I'm sorry, but can you repeat the first part?
Yeah. So the first part was where the family says, so and so is going to do the eulogy today, and we'd really appreciate it if nobody else would say anything.
We went through. When we did Deborah's, I think I had asked 5 or 6, including myself, people to say something. And the idea behind it was we were telling a story about Deborah. And so most of us had, experiences and stuff like that we wanted to share. So people got a deeper understanding of Deborah, but we didn't have anyone, nobody approached me anyhow to say, can I stand up and say something? And we didn't ask the question, because I think the celebrant that overseen the service, the celebration, had asked that question. Do you want to open the floor? And I said, I don't think we need to, because I think what's being pulled together by immediate family and a couple friends and I think 2 co-workers. I said, I think that's sufficient. And if somebody has a story, they can share that story afterwards, with people in smaller groups. And that's kind of what we did.
Yeah. And I think also you bring up a really good point, because it is a celebration of life. It's a service, but it's still an event that's confined to a certain amount of time because the funeral home is still running a business or whatever it is. And when you don't have any rule in place, it could be hours of people, which is great. We love to hear that, but it can't be in that venue.
No, and we were fortunate enough that we were in the hotel that Deborah used to work in. So we weren't under any specific, time constraints and stuff like that. But we had been very clear about the time frame that we were, at a certain time, people were going to be, it was going to be suggested, okay, we're going to be wrapping up, and the audio visual people came and started to take the live streaming down, and the hotel started to clean up the dainties and the coffee and all that sort of stuff. And so it was okay, folks, if you want to stay, you're going to be in an empty room. So, start to plan your exit strategy, so to speak. But everybody was great that way, that, there was we stayed back. And so for me, I stayed back to help with the cleanup and stuff like that. And for, with the exception of one or two people, everybody transitioned out of that particular area and chose to go wherever they wished to continue their celebration of Deborah's life someplace else.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. How are you feeling?
Good.
Good. That makes me happy. I'm happy. So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I'm going to just turn it over to you to share whatever you want to share with our audience. Maybe if it's about how they can heal, maybe it's about something else in your journey that you want them to know. Maybe it's about your books. It's about what you're going to be doing. Anything that you want to share, please take this time.
Yeah. I think that for our listening and viewing audience, that I hope that you take away from today that your grief, if you've lost somebody, that your grief is indeed truly unique, and you need to, do what's right for you. And part of that, I hope, will be to have a support structure in place that's going to help you deal with the grief and with making sure that your mental health is being treated as well, that you're looking after that. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that you take care of number one, and that's, certainly yourself. And, I hope that over the course of the times that we've been meeting and getting together, that you realize that it's okay to, to mourn. It's okay to cry. It's okay to ask for somebody to be part of your journey, and to reach out and, extend your hand and say, I need help, and be able to do that. So those are some things, some takeaways for you. I just wanted to share what we talked about on the other show, and that's that today, just to confirm for everybody, is that today is my last day as co-host with Dr. Jacalyn for Your Story, Your Grief, Your Journey. And I'm forever grateful to Dr. Jacalyn and the USA Global TV and Radio family for the opportunities that I have been presented. Dr. Jacalyn, I want to thank you personally for your leadership and guidance, as I've learned so much during our time together. It is because of your leadership and guidance that I'm continuing my journey of making the world a better place to be. I have been provided with an opportunity to expand the bereavement support that I'm providing today, and to make sure that no one is left on the island by themselves as they continue their healing journey, whether it be mental health or grief. You and I worked well together and still do, and I'm confident that our paths as healers will cross once again very soon. And again, my very, very sincere thank you.
Wow, thank you, Doug. I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I'm just holding it together here, but you have brought so much to this platform. Your professionalism, your passion for your topics, your sincere dream of each person having a better quality of life and making yourself available, telling people that they're not on an island by themselves, that don't be consumed with fees and costs and whatnot. So I'm just thrilled that we had this opportunity because I've really enjoyed it. And to your point, we will be doing something else again in the future. I don't know what it is, but we were brought together for a reason.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So as we close out, would you like to read from your book?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I think let's end it where we are right now.
All right, thank you. And so for all of you out there, you can contact Doug. He's still around. You can still find him. You can also go over to our YouTube channel and watch all of the shows over there on USA Global TV and radio. Doug, I wish you all the best. You and I will be in touch. This is not the end for us, but for people who are out there, you can still find Doug. You can go over to LinkedIn. You can go to his website. You can email him. You can purchase his books. So let's show him how much we appreciate him being part of this family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, folks, we're signing off for now. Thank you again for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again for our next show. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.